George Middleton had raised a regiment of black troops to serve in the Revolutionary War called the Bucks of America. They had fought at the Battle of Rhode Island in 1778, and the regimental flag, the tradition tells us, was given to them by Governor Hancock. The Middleton in 1787 built a home on the north slope of Beacon Hill, moving out of the crowded North End to build a house in a relatively less developed area facing toward the Charles River on the north slope of Beacon Hill. And Middleton's house still stands, the oldest building on Beacon Hill. In 1806, Middleton was attempting to worship at Old South Meeting House, but was asked if he not sit on the main floor of the church. Changing feelings among some of the white members of the church were that blacks should not be seated on the floor of the church. Middleton left, and Middleton and others in the black community of Boston built the African Meeting House on the north slope of Beacon Hill, close by to where Middleton lived. This now is the oldest black church building in the United States. Now, by this time, the north slope of Beacon Hill had become the center of a black community in Boston, a free black community, as Massachusetts had been the first state to abolish slavery, and black people were leaving the farms of Massachusetts and coming to the city for better jobs, to work in the shipyards or to work as domestic servants, to be part of the growing economic life of Boston. The north slope of the hill now, with this school, with the church, the African Meeting House, becomes the center for their community. Another leader in the community, Prince Hall, had founded a Masonic order in Boston, the Prince Hall Masons, in the 1770s. He and his son Primus opened a school in the basement of the African Meeting House, which became the school for black children in Boston. In 1829, David Walker wrote an appeal to the colored citizens of the world, one of the first great anti-slavery tracts, calling on slaves in the southern states to rise up against their owners, in fact calling for an insurrection based on the ideas of the Declaration of Independence and the ideas of the Bible, though Walker condemned Jefferson and the Declaration of Independence for their hypocrisy. Now, Walker dealt in used clothing, and planters in the southern states would buy barrels of used clothing, and every year between Christmas and New Year's would give all of their slaves a new suit of clothes. So Walker, selling used clothing or cheap ready-made clothing made in the mills of Lowell and Lawrence, is going to ship this clothing south, and in these barrels of clothes he packs copies of his appeal to the colored citizens of the world, knowing that these barrels are going to be opened by slaves on the plantations of Georgia and South Carolina. They then will be able to circulate the pamphlet. Walker knew that you don't need to read a book in order to know that slavery is a bad thing if you happen to be a slave, but what you might not know is that there are other people who agree with you and will support you if you take action. When the governors of South Carolina and Georgia find out about this pamphlet that Walker is shipping in bulk in these barrels of clothing, they call on the mayor of Boston, Harrison Gray Otis, to arrest Walker for inciting slave insurrections. Mayor Otis refuses. He's not going to arrest someone for writing a book. Walker continues shipping his barrels of clothing loaded with the pamphlet south until he died somewhat mysteriously in 1831. By this time, Walker, as part of the free black community here on the north slope of Beacon Hill, has started an insurrection against slavery from the north slope of the hill.